to John.
Okay, thank you, Carol. And thank you, Anhi. And they've introduced many interesting concepts that I'll build upon. And I'm going to specifically talk about time-restricted eating and body composition, cancer and cancer risk factors. As disclosures, I do have some investigator-initiated grants with industry and some consulting arrangements. If you want a copy of my slides, because there's lots of links, you can screenshot this QR code and you can access all my slides and information. So I'll be talking about the difference between time-restricted eating versus intermittent fasting, the TREAT study, which we performed in partnership with UCSF, and what the surprising findings were of this time-restricted eating study, and how you can use body composition to monitor your lifestyle changes. So diet and your eating habits impact multiple compartments of your body, including your fat mass and the distribution of where that fat occurs. And Dr. Boucher and Lim both mentioned the visceral fat versus subcutaneous fat compartments as being directly related to diet in many cases, but also muscle mass, the quality of your muscle, your bone density, and many risk factors that are associated with diabetes, heart disease, and cancer risk. So in Hawaii, where we are, 6,700 Hawaii residents are diagnosed with invasive cancer each year, and more than 2,200 Hawaii residents die of cancer each year. And of those cancers, obesity is responsible for 20%. So at the UH Cancer Center, we have a robust obesity program that all three of us speakers are part of. As was mentioned before, intermittent fasting is a very simple method that really is just defining eating windows separated by periods of fasting. Time-restricted feeding in obese mice resulted in reduced weight and better metabolic profile. So that encouraged many people to think that the same thing would happen in people. These fasting periods can really be from 12 hours to 48 hours or more, depending on which intermittent fasting program you're participating in. And as already mentioned, some of the popular intermittent fasting programs include the 16-18 method, where you fast for 16 hours of the day and can eat for 8 hours. Generally, that's somewhere in the middle of the day, let's say, for example, between 12 and 8 p.m. The 5-2 diet, which does caloric restriction on 2 days of the week, and the eat and stop diet, where you fast for 24 hours, 2 days of the week, or maybe every other week, depending on the design. But what we're going to be focusing on for the TREAT study is time-restricted eating. And this is a specific subclass of the intermittent fasting, where fasting and eating periods are within a 24-hour period. And I want to focus on this paper that came out about 6 months ago in JAMA Internal Medicine that were the primary results of the TREAT study. And the TREAT study was a time-restricted eating study to look at weight loss and metabolic parameters in men and women that were overweight or obese. So this was a 16 8-hour time-restricted eating program, and I'm going to go through some of the details as we go along. The primary student involved was Dylan Lowe, and Ethan Weiss was the principal investigator. He's a cardiologist at UCSF. My role in the study was as a co-investigator with Dr. Weiss, and was responsible for adding in the body composition results that I'll be talking about. So 1,975 individuals were assessed for eligibility using an app called iHealth. And this app is an interface for people to log information on their diet or their exercise or their weight. And there's probably, I think there's over 500,000 people that have at least downloaded the app. and can interact with study investigators on a wide variety of studies. For this study, 1,900 people were assessed for eligibility, 141 were randomized. There were some lost to follow-up and discontinued from intervention, but ultimately there ended up 57 were randomized into the CMT arm, which means consistent meal timing, and 59 were randomized into the time-restricted eating. So the primary part, or the interesting part of this design, is the when people ate was the intervention. There wasn't strict guidelines on what to eat, but the consistent meal timing was required to have 3 meals a day. They were allowed to snack in between. The time-restricted eating were really allowed to eat whenever they felt like it. But there was no consistent and recommendations on exactly what to eat. So it was considered a very practical and real-world intervention that just looked at the timing of meals. Adherence and weight change in the total cohort can be seen here. On the left, you see that the time-restricted eating did worse on adherence than the consistent meal timing group. Overall, the CMT adherence was about 92%, and the TRE group over the 12-week study period was about 83%. And you can see people started falling off on the TRE as time went by. When you look at percent weight change in the two groups, you can see that on the left, there were individuals that lost weight and individuals that gained weight on the consistent meal timing, and the same thing was true on the time-restricted eating. There were winners and losers in weight, both. But you can see there's a little bit more of a skew to losing weight with the time-restricted eating. So both the CMT and TRE groups lost and gained weight. The weight change in the total cohort can be outlined here. And I just want to outline first that in the CMT group, which is really a control group, they lost about 0.68 or 0.7 kilograms over the study period. But the p-value didn't reach significance between the beginning weight and end weight. But if you look at the TRE group, they lost almost a kilogram of weight that was significant. But if you go further to look at the p-value for difference in weight loss between the two groups, the p-value was not significant. So in general, after 12 weeks, the TRE group didn't lose significantly more weight than the CMT group. 1.2% of their body weight versus 0.75% of body weight for the control group. Now, this is a very complicated plot, and I want to make it very simple to look at because these are all the body composition measurements, as well as strength, respiratory quotient, and metabolic rate. And you don't need to look at all the values. This was a subset of both arms that was 25 people in each arm. The 25 in the CMT and 25 in the TRE. So first, I just want to show you in the CMT group, if you look down the column here of the p-values, there's only a few that were significant. One, the total body water changed significantly over the study period for this group. The second, the respiratory quotient went from 0.74 to 0.77. So in general, you would say that they consumed a little bit less fat over the study period. And then finally, the total energy expenditure went down with a p-value less than 0.05 throughout the study period. Now, if we look at the p-values also for the time-restricted eating in this column, you can see that there was a statistically significant weight loss in this group with from 92 to 90.9 kilos on average. When we go down, but the surprising finding was the lean mass change. There was a very statistically significant result of lean mass decrease from the beginning to the end of the study, which was about 1 kilo of lean mass on the entire body. But the other way of looking at this is called appendicular lean mass, and that's the lean mass of the arms and legs. That doesn't include any of the visceral lean. So that would be considered a pure muscle compartment. And as you can see, there was about over 0.5 kilo of appendicular lean mass lost in this group that was different from the control group. And if we look across the board, then there was also this energy expenditure difference as well in the TRE group. But if we look across the board at the difference between the groups, only this value of appendicular lean mass survived. So in summary, of these 50 participants, the primary finding was a higher than expected loss in total lean mass. When you lose weight, you lose lean mass, but generally we expect you to lose about 20% of your weight as lean mass. In this study, the TRE group lost 65% of their weight loss was lean mass in their appendicular lean mass compartment as well as their total. So that's a very significant finding and different than what was expected. It's important to note also that there were no differences within group or between group for any blood or sleep marker. And I'm not going to show all that data here, but it would be a bunch of insignificant p-values. So the TRE group lost about 1 pound more leg and arm muscle than the CMT group. And so in a prospective study that was a randomized trial of the 16-8 TRE was associated with a modest weight loss of about 1.2% of body weight that was not different than the control group of about 0.75% weight loss. The TRE group lost a pound of arm and leg muscle mass compared to the controls. In other TRE schemes that have a different eating times during the day or different lengths may have different results. So the study emphasizes that it's important to monitor your fat and lean mass when you're changing your eating and physical activity routines, and maintain and monitor your lean mass as you get older to stay highly functional. Because that's the big implication here, is that losing this lean mass, especially in older adults, could bring on frailty, sarcopenia, and poor outcomes of longevity outcomes. But monitoring muscle can be complex. You have lots of different muscle groups in the body, and there's most methods that we have for body composition are really fine-tuned for fat. So there are bathroom scales that do give you a percent body fat, but the bottom line on those is that they're not very good at monitoring the fat and lean, your fat and lean mass. They're very good at weight, but not very good at body composition. We did a survey of 6 scales and compared it to criterion methods that was highlighted on Good Morning America. And if you go to the website and follow this link, you can read about our study. But it found wildly different body composition measures on the scales relative to criterion lab methods. And you can use these criterion lab methods to monitor weight change, but it's a little more of a commitment, since you have to go to a lab like we have here at the Cancer Center to use dual X-ray absorptiometry systems like are shown here, or BOD-POD, or one of many methods. And these methods can only be used infrequently because either the cost or they involve ionizing radiation. So we've been working on an alternative that you can use at home and also in fitness centers that's called 3D body scanning. And the reason why we think that 3D body scanning is useful is because it doesn't penetrate the body and actually measure the tissue properties itself. It measures your shape. And shape has been a long-term, it's been known for a long time to be related to your to cancer risk and mortality. You can see here the relative risk of cancer and mortality is different for those with more of a pear shape than an apple shape, as shown here with the waist to hip ratio, even across different categories of BMI. So if you have the apple shape with the highest BMI, you have the highest cancer mortality, and if compared to about 2.4 times higher than the low BMI, low pear shape group. So how does this 3D body scanning work? It's really quite simple. This is a unit that we use here in the lab. It's called a Fit3D, and these are found in over 1,000 fitness centers across the United States and other parts of the world. You stand on a platform, hold these handles, and push the buttons on the handle, and then your body will rotate, and it takes about 30 seconds to scan your entire body. And it's getting a profile of not just your waist and hips, but your arms, your neck, through your legs and your thighs. And we can use all of this information to get an even better assessment of how much muscle and fat you have at different parts of your body. So this information we think is superior to just getting single measurements of like the waist and hip. We have a large study going on called the Shape Up Cohort, and there are 3 arms of that study. The adult study, which is 720 adults to look at how body shape relates to adult health. Shape Up Kids for kids from 5 to 17 years old. And the kids are interesting because obesity patterns of adults are often set in place during adolescence and even younger ages, but there's very few accessible measures of body composition that they can use. So 3D optical seems to be a good assessment of that. And we're also doing 720 kids as part of the kids study. And then we have our newest study, Shape Up Keiki. Keiki in Hawaiian means young child. And this study is in 360 children from birth to 5 years old. And they have the very special quality of not holding still. You can tell them to hold still, but they won't hold still. So you have to do a measurement while they are unconstrained and still have accurate body composition assessment. So this is how 3D optical is used. Here's an example of a woman that went on a cruise for 1 week, and she posted on a social media post just in case you're wondering what happens during a week on a cruise ship. And you can see what happened. She gained 13 pounds. And some of that was from lean mass, but of the 13 pounds she gained, 12 was from fat. So she was not very happy about this. And her friend said, well, lots of food, but lots of walking too. And she said, ultimately, you can't outrun your fork. So she was enjoying herself, and she knew she was enjoying herself. And she planned to use 3D optical scanning to monitor her weight gain as well as her follow-up loss. Here is another rather heroic participant that went through an intervention of physical activity. A 46-year-old woman who sleeps 6 to 8 hours a night. She does cold water showers and breathing exercises 5 out of 7 days. She also uses her hot tub post-workout anytime she feels stiff, even when she wakes up in the middle of the night to help her sleep better. And she does heavy weight training 3 times a week for 1 hour. And she considers herself very committed and never misses. She even uses something called the Bionic Gym for 2 hours a day, which is this electrical stimulation in the thighs. I want to point out, though, that over this period from January 19 to March 28, she lost 17 pounds. But look at how she lost that. She lost 15 pounds of fat mass and 1.8 pounds of lean mass. And as you recall from the TREAT study, we expect that there will be lean mass loss, and this is about 10% lean mass loss, which is right in the range, in fact, even better than we would expect because of her weight training. So again, the 3D optical scanning helped her monitor important metrics for her intervention. We can also modify, and you can start with a body shape, and we can we can visualize what your body will look like once you gain or lose fat and lean. And I've used myself as an example here. And if we go to the first one, here's me with a 28 BMI. And if we lose 20 kilograms, if I lose 20 kilograms of fat, I start looking a lot better. And if I gain 20 kilograms of fat, you can see that our models, which are all data-driven from our shape-up studies, show that I gain a lot of abdominal fat as well as in my chest and arms, but my legs didn't gain much in this case because that's just the patterns that men put on weight. Here's an increases by muscle of 20 kilograms. And if I had the same fat that I have now, but put on 20 kilograms of lean, I start looking even more like a bodybuilder. If I put on the 20 kilograms of lean, I'm sorry, the first one was if I lost 20 kilograms of fat and gained the 20 kilograms of lean. But if I just put on the 20 kilograms of lean, you can see I start looking a little bit more robust with that muscle. And then with 20 kilograms of each compartment, I start looking like a U.S. football linebacker. And this is the last example. If you lose this decrease in muscle, I would start having with the fat loss and lean loss, I start looking like a sarcopenic patient where they're getting down to dangerously low muscle levels. But if I just lose 20 kilograms of lean and keep my fat, I would look like someone that never plays sports, or possibly this last person that has more of a sarcopenic obese profile with the added fat and loss of muscle. So these are just the ways that we can use data-driven models to predict what one looks like. We've done this also with Leah Denton. She's an athlete, and she just set the world's record for rowing solo from San Francisco to Honolulu this past September. It was an outstanding feat that took her 86 days. So in her case, she wanted to put on extra fat, and because she was going to be out in this boat rowing for so long, she needed the excess energy. And so we modeled her body to show the different body shapes and compositions where she would have that fat. And her main response to our images is that she thought we were showing her images of her mother. So I guess her mother has more of these body profiles that she has to look forward to. So why might children be different? Children really aren't little adults. And so that's why in the Shape-Up Keiki study, we're trying to measure body composition as they move. In all of our 3D optical imaging modes for Shape-Up Keiki are capturing depth images of babies while they're moving, but we can create a full 3D optical scan from that and ultimately generate a body composition measurement just like we do off adults, where we repose the baby and can take anthropometry measurements as well as fat and lean measurements calibrated to DEXA images. So I'm going to close with some case examples. Here's an obese male, 22-year-old African-American. He weighs 117 kilograms. He has a height of 176 centimeters and a BMI of 38. Is this enough information for us to target an intervention? Well, we don't know his fat and lean makeup, but we could look at his fat mass index and lean mass index as we measure from DEXA. And we could see that he's an obese class 1 by fat mass index, and his lean mass is high. So we know that we could prescribe a intervention that would reduce his fat mass index down to 6 and keep the lean mass index in the healthy range above 16. And using our 3D optical scanning, we can show this individual what their starting scan looks like, and then show them the model that if they meet their target range, what their body would be transformed into. And you can see this is quite a transformation for this young man to go from 36 BMI down to 26 BMI and with healthy indexes. So how do you know you are losing fat, not muscle? You get body composition assessed and evaluate your risk factors and overall metabolic health. You identify goals for healthy improvement, how much you want to lose of fat and may potentially gain of lean. You create a training program and with a diet and exercise component, and then monitor your body composition and body shape using a baseline, at least a midpoint assessment to potentially modify your program, and then a final assessment to catalog your success of your program. So I hope that you've captured these learning objectives that I've talked about. And my last slide is got all the links if you want to look into our funding sources and publications and learn more about our team. So thank you very much.